There is so much evidence that not only has Victor's dad been intentionally deceiving Tabitha in that he is therefore evil, but that he is also the entity that killed his own wife in the first place.
I went through a magic tree and wake up in the hospital. You just happened to be here. No. This was your mistake.
What?
It's just more of this place torturing me. I need to pull over right now.
This scene gives us some of the most undeniable proof that Victor's dad intentionally manipulated Tabitha into the car accident so that he could drag her back into the town to prevent her from escaping him. And we know this for a fact because the only reason Tabitha even freaks out and tries to run away in the first place is because Victor's dad specifically tells her to look inside of the glove compartment. The same glove compartment where she just coincidentally happens to find Victor's mom's bracelet. And remember, Victor's mom died over 40 years ago and she was literally wearing her bracelet right before she was ruthlessly torn apart by a demon.
There should be some crackers in the glove compartment. Might settle your stomach.
Where'd you get this? What happens if I refuse to play along?
You can't do this!
And this scene in particular is key to understanding how we know for a fact that Victor's dad is not only responsible for Victor's mom's death, but that he has been maliciously lying to us from the very beginning. This is one of the biggest clues that Victor's dad and the entity in control of the monsters are one and the same. Because if you still do not get it, Victor's mom was wearing her own bracelet when she died. This means that the bracelet Tabitha finds in Victor's dad's car literally cannot be Victor's mom's bracelet, because Tabitha, Victor's mom's supposed successor in reincarnation, specifically says that she made only one bracelet and that she made it for Jim Matthews, her husband. She did not make any bracelet for herself. It was specifically for her husband. Basically, what I'm saying here is that there's only two possible explanations for how Victor's mom could have two different bracelets. The first is that Victor's dad is the entity in control of the monsters, and he simply took the bracelet off of Victor's mom's body after she died. The second possibility, which is clearly and undoubtedly the reality of what's really going on in this town, is that Victor's dad, i.e. the entity himself, sent visions into Tabitha's brain when she was a child to make her believe that it was her natural inclination to make this specific bracelet in the first place. And what we're seeing here is just one of the many clues that Victor's dad, this body, this form, is merely just another tool that the entity himself has been specifically using to deceive Tabitha this entire time into believing that she is the reincarnation of Victor's mom. And what I'm about to show you next is even more proof that this specific claim by Victor's dad is something that we know with 100% certainty is clearly a lie, and therefore that Victor's dad is also clearly evil.
She was the one who had been chosen to free the children, but others were chosen before her. She could see each and every one.
What Victor's dad specifically says in this scene is the biggest clue by the writers that there's not a single thing he's ever said that was true in any way. Victor's dad specifically claims that Victor's mom was the one who made these paintings. This is literally impossible, and I am going to explain to you exactly why there is no possibility whatsoever that this claim could be true. Because I want you to look at these two people and I want you to tell me how old each of them are. Victor's mom at best was in her mid-30s, which we know for a fact because that is also the age of the actress herself when she was playing this role. And Christopher is clearly at least 60 years old, and even that I think is being very generous with his age for some very obvious reasons. This is where Victor's dad's nonsensical story completely falls apart and is revealed to be nothing more than a pile of completely rancid bullshit. Because what I'm about to show you is proof that cannot be denied of Victor's dad being a liar.
I don't understand.
Jade and I were here at the beginning. We tried to save those children, set them free, because one of them was ours.
This scene not only gives us irrefutable proof that Victor's dad is intentionally lying to us, but that him and the entity in control of the monsters are the exact same being. Because think about this. If we assume Victor's massacre happens in 1978 because of the date written in the lighthouse, which we know are completely different from the numbers written in the bottle trees, so they are not a factor in this conversation, it would mean Christopher would have had to have been born in 1918. But if that's true, it would also mean there was no version of Victor's mom that could have even possibly been in the town in between the year Christopher was born and at least up to the very late 1970s when Victor's mom comes into the town. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that there is literally no possible way that Victor's mom could have memories of the new, clearly modern diner existing in the town, because all of the women that she could have even possibly be reincarnated from could only have existed before the popularization of the diner as a concept. Like, think about this. Even if you want to lowball Christopher's age all the way down to being 40 years old, which would be completely ridiculous, the television sets available in the houses in Fromland are way too advanced for you to make the claim that they were made closer to the 1920s than, say, the 1970s, which is obviously the case, because that's also closer to the time when people started having televisions in their own houses. And so what I'm trying to say here is that Victor's dad is clearly evil. There is no aspect of the story that he is desperately trying to sell you that makes any sense whatsoever. He is conclusively a liar, because everything we're seeing here is just the tip of the spear. There is far more evidence that the idea of Tabitha being a reincarnation of Victor's mom is entirely a ploy created by Victor's dad, the entity, which is why what I'm about to show you matters so much to understanding what's really going on in this story.
Others were chosen before her. She could see each and every one.
Everything lies here. This scene is one of the biggest hints by the writers that Victor's dad has been maliciously deceiving us from the very moment he was introduced into this story. Because time and time again, it is clearly shown that Victor's mom had no knowledge of the town before she went in.
The boy in white was trying to tell Christopher that to save the children, he would have to go through the tree. I told my mother what the boy in white said. That's why she left us.
It is specifically stated that she only tries to go into the tree after Victor told her what he overheard the boy in white saying to Christopher, which means Victor's mom did not know that that is how to supposedly save the children locked in the tower. She did not know about the bottle trees, and she didn't even know that there were children who were trapped in the first place. And this is consistent with the undeniable truth that she was not the one to have made those paintings, because A, she never brings the talismans back to the town, even though they are clearly depicted on these paintings, which is obviously something she would have done to protect her children from the demons that were trying to torture them if she knew about them, but she obviously didn't. And the fact that some of these paintings are set at nighttime, like the one of the diner, proves that they were made by a non-human being who is not afraid of being attacked by the Nightwalkers, which makes sense because they were literally made by the entity himself, Victor's dad. The bottle tree, the bracelet, the paintings, all of these are checkpoints designed by the entity in control of the monsters to make sure that Tabitha is progressing in the quest the way that he wants her to. Because Victor's dad and the entity in control of the monsters are the exact same being, something that we know very well and has been in the story from the very beginning, the boy in white.
I went through a magic tree and wake up in the hospital. You just happened to be here. No. We're not really condemned, are we? It's just more of this place.
She was the one who had been chosen to free the children. But you've been chosen now too. How did you get out?
What we see here is one of the biggest clues of Victor's dad and the boy in white being the exact same entity. He specifically tells Tabitha that it's the only way, knowing that it would keep her looking out for clues that there was a mystery that needed to be solved once she was in Camden, Maine, even though the statement itself doesn't actually mean anything. Basically, the boy in white, who is also Victor's dad and the entity, wants Tabitha to come up with a meaning for that statement on her own. It's the exact same manipulation used by those demonic children when it comes to the word Ankui. He wants you to come up with a meaning on your own, because that way you'll develop an emotional attachment to it. Like, even when you think about it, the only reason Tabitha even finds Victor's dad in the first place is because the boy in white appeared as the priest and manipulated her into looking inside of Victor's lunchbox so that she would see the address. But there's something far more specific that I need to show you, which shows an explicit connection between the boy in white, Victor's dad, and the entity in control of the monsters, all at the exact same time.
Mom's in an ambulance. You have to help her.
Who are you talking to?
Should be watching Julie and Ethan.
You leave my children alone.
But they're not your children anymore.
This scene gives us undeniable evidence that Victor's dad, the boy in white, and the entity are merely one and the same, because most people recognize that it was in fact the boy in white telling Ethan that Tabitha was coming back in the ambulance. But where they fail is that they ignore this same voice repeatedly threatening to kill Jim Matthews' family in an attempt to destabilize Jim Matthews' mind. But how we know this voice is also one and the same with the being that we know as Victor's dad is that this being only made that telephone call when Victor's dad was unconscious in the ambulance. And we know for a fact that it's not a coincidence, because the first time that the boy calls Jim Matthews on the telephone, Victor's dad was asleep in the supposed real world. But what matters most here is that we know without a doubt that it was clearly this same exact being on the telephone that told the monsters to set that trap in preparation for Tabitha's arrival before she arrived, which would mean Victor's dad, the boy in white, is also the boss of the monsters, which would make him the entity himself. The writers have made this fact so obvious that it's laughable. Like, notice how the boy in white is not seen a single time in Fromland after pushing Tabitha off of the lighthouse until she brings Victor's dad into the town back with her. This is not a coincidence. I am telling you this conclusively. Victor's dad and the boy in white are the same exact being. The evidence is overwhelming, and what I'm about to show you next is even more proof of the insane amount of manipulation that the people of this town are being put through by Victor's dad, the entity in control of the monsters.
Victor was there. When I hugged him, I felt like Miranda was there. I don't know how to explain it, but she was trying to tell me something. She took me back to the night it happened, the night she went to the tree. I could feel her in that room.
This is one of the biggest signs and clues that Tabitha was never Victor's mom's reincarnation at any point, and that this entire plotline is just manipulation that was set up by the entity himself. Because what you failed to understand about this scene is that it was obviously the kimono demon that places this vision into Tabitha's brain, not Victor's mom. Like, we know conclusively that the kimono demon is telepathic, just like the boy in white. No shit. What this means is that he was the one who placed this vision into Tabitha's brain to deceive her into believing that she was Victor's mom's reincarnation. And we know this to be true because the vision, or more appropriately, the memory, is taking place from the third person, which means it was someone else watching the event taking place, which makes sense because it was literally just the kimono demon itself that was watching it happen. And this is even more proof of the obvious connection between the kimono demon and the boy in white, as it was the boy who sets up the trap with the smiley waiting at the bottle tree in the first place. This also happened less than an episode before we see the kimono demon implanting the information about the child sacrifices into Fatima's brain. And I also want you to remember that this moment where Tabitha sees Victor's mom's death happens immediately after that scene where we saw the kimono demon holding down Fatima as Tabitha walked into the root cellar. It is clearly shown that it was the kimono demon that put that vision into Tabitha's brain. And this is what I want you to understand. The manipulation here is much worse than anything you have ever imagined. There are 0 reincarnations in this story. Victor's dad, the boy in white, is the one who created everything that we see today in Fromland, from the town to the Nightwalkers to whatever role you may or may not end up playing in the game. He is in control of all of it. That's why he can leave whenever he wants. And we know this to be true because even the name of the episode that Victor's dad ends up coming back into the town is literally called Mousetrap. It's also obvious that the Nightwalkers did not attack Tabitha in the ambulance because they were terrified of Victor's dad, just like they were terrified of fake Abby when he shows up at the RV, who is also clearly just him wearing yet another skin suit. But people can't see this, it's crazy. But if you know anything about the entity in control of the monsters, you already know that he uses the same exact strategy every single time. And these dumbass people always fall for it. It's insane, man. Like the cheese for the trap is literally always the exact same every single time. Just do this one simple thing and we all get to go home. That's why he called them, saying that Tabitha was in the ambulance. He knew that Boyd couldn't resist the thought that Tabitha might actually know the way out of the town. Unfortunately, the boy knocked her unconscious so that she wouldn't see how he got her to Camden, Maine in the first place. And this is a great example of how good he is at manipulating you without you ever even realizing that it even happened at all. Like when you look at this scene with the man in yellow, it is proof of exactly what I've been talking about. So watch this video next to understand this undeniable connection between the man in yellow and Victor's dad, who is clearly the boy in white.